What's up guys, my name's Brandon and welcome back to the 34th jailbreak update video. And it's been a while. So in this episode, we're gonna be talking about, of course, the iOS 10.3 through 10.3.3 jailbreak, the potential for an upcoming 32-bit jailbreak, Mosec 2017, iOS 11, and more. So first of all, sorry for not making a jailbreak update video. Over the past couple weeks, I used to do these every single week, no matter what really. But really, over the past couple weeks, there hasn't been much news. So I didn't want to bring you guys old, stale news, and only old, stale news, nothing new. So you guys know I don't like repeating myself. I don't like bringing you these videos unless I have something new and important to talk about, or something that's just, something to look forward to in the future. So that's what we're gonna be doing in these videos, and that's what I've always done in all the previous videos. But anyways, let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and start talking about jailbreaking. So before we get too deep into this, let's clarify a few things. First of all, there is no 10.3 and above jailbreak. The latest jailbreak is still iOS 10.2 for non-iPhone 7 devices, 64-bit devices, and then 10.1.1 is the latest for iPhone 7 users. However, if you've been tuning into the channel and following these jailbreak update videos over the past month or two, you would know that there have been two 10.3.1 jailbreaks achieved. One comes from Pengu, and they demonstrated this at their Janus event, which I talked about in depth in a previous episode. And the second comes from an independent researcher named Adam Donenfield. And he works for a private security team called Imperium, and he's planning on releasing the exploit, the kernel exploit for 10.3.1 in August. Now, if you don't have any clue what I'm talking about here, just go back and watch the previous episodes. I talk about both of these in depth. And the crazy thing about this is that iOS 10.3.1, a firmware that has been jailbroken by two different companies and shown publicly, is still being signed. It's still being signed by Apple. The window is still open, so you guys can still downgrade or update to 10.3.1, and you have been able to for months, as I've been telling you guys, constantly to get there if you have not already. So there's really no excuse, if a jailbreak comes for 10.3.1, if and when it comes, there'd really be no excuse why you shouldn't be on 10.3.1 and ready for that jailbreak. And even if you're on 10.3.1 now, make sure you save your blobs for 10.3.1. I'll have a link down in the description if you still don't know how to do that. Now, of course, there's no ETA or anything with the 10.3.1 jailbreak. We really just don't know when to expect it. However, we do know that the kernel exploit from Adam from the Imperium team is going to be released around August time. But again, that's not a full jailbreak. That is just the kernel exploit, which is a big part of a jailbreak, but it's still not a full-fledged jailbreak. So somebody's going to have to come along and build out that jailbreak, as I've talked about in previous episodes. But yeah, like I said, the only confirmed version to be working with these two jailbreaks is 10.3.1. Now, it could very easily be 10.3 through 10.3.3. However, we only know of 10.3.1 working right now. So that's why I advise you guys to stay on 10.3.1 or get to 10.3.1. However, I would not rule out the possibility that it could work on 10.3.3 as well. Now, it seems like every week there's a new fake jailbreak fooling everybody and scamming people out of money or scamming people out of, passwords or something. People are getting scammed from these fake jailbreaks. So I just want to say it again. I have to keep saying it over and over again because there's people that constantly get, scammed and duped by these people falling for these fake jailbreaks. So I just want to make it clear, there is no jailbreak for 10.3 and above. So if you see anything online at all and it's not on my channel, it's fake. I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to even give them any publicity, but just do not fall for any of these fake jailbreaks. If you want to know when the real jailbreak's going to come out and a real tutorial and a real how-to on how to do that, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on that bell notification right there so you get notifications immediately when that jailbreak gets released. So now, what about Mosec 2017, which is just in a couple days on June 23rd? Well, now the Mosec website has all of the speakers filled in on the website right here, but you can see that Pengu is not on there. So yes, for the first time ever in Mosec history, which is only a few years, but Pengu is not going to be giving a presentation according to the schedule and the speaker list. Now, Pengu is going to be there because they do demonstrate and put on this event, but it doesn't look like they're going to be demonstrating an iOS 11 beta jailbreak like I had hoped for. And I hoped for this and predicted this because that's what they did at Mosec 2016. They demonstrated an iOS 10 beta jailbreak, which of course we now know was never released to the public. So yeah, that's pretty unfortunate, but it's not like a jailbreak would have released at the event or even, just right after the event anyway. So, they were just going to demonstrate a jailbreak and possibly, a few weeks from then release it. But of course, that's just speculation. We just all speculated that, but they were never going to drop a jailbreak on the day of giving a presentation or anything like that. But if you look at the Mosec speakers, it's going to be really interesting to see what Max presents during his Poning the Apple Watch presentation, because, we've all wondered what an Apple Watch jailbreak is going to be like, and this is really the first step in that direction. I just really hope Substrate is going to be a thing on the Apple Watch. If that happens, I can see people buying an Apple Watch just to jailbreak it, just like people do for iPhones. Luca Tedesco is also going to be there presenting at Mosec. He's going to be talking about the modern iOS exploit exploit mitigation techniques, which is also going to be very interesting. And then Lang Chen from Keenlab is going to be talking about the enhanced security that Apple embedded into iOS 10 through 10.3.x. So this should be pretty interesting because we really haven't heard anyone talk about the 10.3.x firmware in regards to security and jailbreaking and things like that. So yeah, Mosec 2017 is on the 23rd of June, so you can't really expect any kind of live stream or anything like that. It's more of a private event, so don't expect any kind of live stream. However, there could be some videos that get leaked or maybe even published by Mosec, who knows, this year. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter. I'll be posting on there first, whatever happens at Mosec 2017. Now, let's talk about the possibility of an upcoming 32-bit jailbreak. Yes, you heard me right, a 32-bit jailbreak. It's been a while since anybody has heard those words. So this news comes from none other than Stefan Esser, aka Ionic, a well-known figure in the community, whether you agree with his past or not. He tweeted this out: with iOS 11 not supporting 32-bit anymore, soon I can declassify some 32-bit only kernel bugs that have existed for many years. So it looks like he's planning on releasing some kernel exploits for 32-bit devices, since 32-bit devices aren't really relevant anymore in Apple's eyes. Since iOS 11 dropped support for 32-bit devices, there's a good chance that 32-bit devices will not see another software update in the future. So that means that we could be having a permanent jailbreak, just like the 3GS, with 32-bit devices, newer 32-bit devices like the 4 and the 4S, things like that. So that'd be really cool because on the 3GS, you can literally go into iTunes and restore back to 6.1.6 and jailbreak right after you restore. So that'd be really cool to be able to do that on like the 5 and the 4 and the 4S and devices like that. Now, does this whole releasing kernel bugs sound familiar? It should, because that's exactly what Adam from Zimperium is doing in August, and that's exactly what he announced a couple months back. Now, I said that to say this: releasing some kernel bugs is not the same as releasing a jailbreak. Kernel bugs are important, they play an important role in a jailbreak, but that's not enough for a full-fledged jailbreak 99% of the time. So we're still gonna have to wait on somebody to, compile that and compile everything and make a full-fledged jailbreak, and it's probably not gonna be Luca Tedesco. So it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens later on this year. So I think there's a good chance that somebody's gonna take Ionic's 32-bit exploits, create a jailbreak out of it, and then release it sometime in the future. However, we just don't know what version that's gonna be. We don't know if it's gonna be iOS 10, iOS 9. We really don't know. I guess if it was iOS 9, it'd have to be iOS 9.3.5, or if it's above, maybe iOS 10, 10.2, 10.3.3. We really don't know at this point. He really didn't say that yet, but I'd expect him to say that later on in the future. But of course, that would be awesome if it's for 10.3.3, because that would of course mean that we have a permanent jailbreak for 32-bit devices, since Apple will probably not release another version after that. Of course, there's a possibility, but since they dropped support in iOS 11, there's a good chance they're just not going to release anything after 10.3.3 for 32-bit devices. So yeah, finally some exciting news for 32-bit users. Now, what's going on with iOS 11, and is there a jailbreak for it right now? Yes, these are legit questions that I get asked, so I want to answer it very quickly. So no, there's no jailbreak for iOS 11 since it is still in its beta form. We really never ever get jailbreaks in the beta form of an iOS version, so I would expect if an iOS 11 jailbreak were to get released, it would be in at least September after the new iPhone gets released, if that early. I understand there's some newbies to the whole jailbreaking scene, so I wanted to clarify that real quick. So if you're still on iOS 9.3.3, you've probably noticed that Luca's JBU site has been pretty unreliable over the past, really ever since like 2017. So if you're running into issues and you can't jailbreak using his site, I will have an alternate link down in the description below so that you can re-jailbreak your 9.3.3 device without a computer. And I also just wanted to quickly talk about future restore and using your blobs to restore to an unsigned version if you have the blob saved for that version. I just want to tell you guys again to not use Feature Restore right now. It's still buggy. You still may run into the error 11, which is going to cause you to restore and update to the latest version. There's people every week that restore back to a version that's not currently being signed using Feature Restore in their blobs, but you still may run into these issues. There's still a lot of issues and bugs going on with Feature Restore. So if you can, I would just hold off on that. But again, if you're desperate and if you're stuck in recovery mode or something like that and you can't get out, or if you're just stuck in some kind of issue where you can't get out of and that's your last resort, I guess do it. But if it's not your last resort, I would not do it right now. So of course, I'm continuing to follow along with Feature Restore and Timstar and everything he's doing over there. So I'll make sure to let you guys know what happens with Feature Restore, if it gets better in the future or what. And of course, I will be making a tutorial here on the channel as well when I feel like it's completely, safe for you guys to use. I don't want anybody running into issues like error 11 or anything like that. So I'm going to make a tutorial when I feel like the success rate is a lot higher and a lot better than it is now. And finally, I just wanted to catch up on some new and updated tweaks in Cydia. The first one's called S8 Edge, and this is a free package from the Big Boss repo. I believe all these are free that I'm going to be mentioning, but this brings the whole feel of the Samsung Galaxy S8 Infinity display to iOS. So it's pretty cool. The aesthetics are basically just mimicking the S8, but of course your device isn't going to feel like a full-fledged S8 once you have to press the home button and things like that. Next is a tweak called Dock, and this brings the iOS 11 dock to iOS 10, and it looks tremendous. It really looks just like the iOS 11 dock. So I'm going to have the repo for this package in the description below if you want to check it out. And then we have CC Customize. So this lets you completely customize the control center, and it looks really, really awesome. I don't want to go too in depth with this, but it is free on the Big Boss repo. Definitely check it out if you want to customize your control center. And then finally, there is a tweak called Creamy, which brings the iOS 11 passcode lock to iOS 10. And of course, this is free on the Big Boss repo as well. So that is everything going on in the jailbreak world right now. It feels good to be caught up with you guys. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Also, make sure to subscribe for a lot more of these jailbreak update videos. I do them all the time. So thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon.